So I think at the end of the day, it doesn't come down to whether you're a monarchist or a Republican or whether you think the Queen is British or not. It comes down to whether you think the Constitution is consistent and stable or you want to have a constitutional upheaval. And every night on TV, people are seeing scenes of places which are going through constitutional upheaval and they're thinking, not for me, mate. And they're quite right.
Well, it's interesting you say that because one of those places, of course, is Libya, where you've seen a president, a dictator, now shot dead. There's lots of scenes of celebration now about, oh, Libya and the NATO thing worked, you know, NATO coming in, helping the rebels. Are we celebrating or are we thinking, oh, my goodness, what's going to come next?
Well, there are two things to say about that. First of all, he was a terrible, evil dictator. Responsible for the deaths of tens of thousands of people, so no wonder they're happy to see him go. 42 years ago, there was celebration in the streets of Tripoli as well. That was when Gadaffi overthrew, by the way, the monarchy. King Idris was overthrown by Colonel Gadaffi. I have a view that revolutions usually go in a full circle. In Iran, when the Shah was overthrown, celebrations in the streets of Tehran replaced with a theocratic dictatorship, which is a lot worse. What will replace Gadaffi? The opponents of Gadaffi are only united in one thing: their opposition to Colonel Gadaffi. That's all they're...
So now the infighting begins.
And now the infighting begins. They're in different tribes, they're different from different regions, some are Islamists, some are anti-Islamist.
Some of the key positions are being held by Islamists. Some, and some by more secular Muslims, if it's not a contradiction in terms, more moderate Muslims. They vary a lot. But if you think this is going to usher in a glorious era of democracy, then when did a revolution do that? The French Revolution didn't, the Russian and Chinese revolutions didn't, and as I just mentioned, nor in 1979 did the Iranian Revolution. So do you think there is possibly a time may come when the West will say, we were wrong to get rid of Gadaffi?
Well, I don't think they'll say that. I mean, I'm not sure that getting rid of Gadaffi is a bad thing, but the West will have to think very carefully about what is going to happen next. Now, this is an incredibly violent society. As you know, Colonel Gadaffi was clearly executed, and as was his son. There's no question of that. I was, you know, not so much sympathetic about that, but I was struck by what happened to his two bodyguards who were with him when he was found in the drain underneath the road. Both of them were shot, and one of them was decapitated by the crowd.
And we've actually missed that. There have been a number of decapitations and of opponents in the past, and the West has not wanted to look at that.
No, it's not part of the narrative, but it's just worth, you know, don't always be swept up, and I'm sure you're not, by the you know, fashionable narrative, the Arab Spring, glorious era of democracy arriving. Have a look at what people are saying and what people are doing. This is a very violent culture. As you know, Iraq is a very violent culture too. You know, you saw what happened after Saddam Hussein was overthrown. Libya is very violent, and I think it's going to be very hard going from now on. Sure, get rid of Gadaffi, I don't have any problems with that. But when I sat down with the foreign minister of a very significant European country recently and asked him about the Libyan opposition, the transitional government, and what sort of people they were, he said, I guess we're just going to have to find that out. Now, that's not very encouraging when they're sending warplanes in and helping the transitional government dislodge Gadaffi and his people. But they don't really know who they're supporting.
Yes, I think there may be a case, this may be a case of having blundered in without having an exit plan, as was so often levied against you in Iraq. But Alexander Downer, thank you so much for taking the time to drop in.
It's a pleasure.